आज हमारे एपिसोड में एक बहुत ही ज्यादा स्पेशल गेस्ट आए हैं एंड आज हम बात करने वाले हैं ऑन भगवद गीता। भगवद गीता के ऊपर बहुत सारे पॉडकास्ट हुए हैं, सब लोगों ने अपना एंगल बताया है कि भगवद गीता क्या है, बट आज हम एक प्रैक्टिकल एंगल से देखने वाले कि भगवद गीता हमारी लाइफ में क्या ऐड कर सकता है। एंड टू गाइड अस थ्रू दिस एपिसोड वी हैव विद अस मिस्टर प्रहलाद जी राठी। वेलकम टू द मानव शो सर।
थैंक यू मानव
सर। सो डायरेक्टली पॉइंट पे आते हैं, व्हाट इज भगवद गीता?
मैं अभी बहुत सालों से गीता पढ़ रहा हूँ, मेरे को उसमें इंटरेस्ट है और लोगों का जनरल ओपिनियन है कि ठीक है, भगवान ने बताया हुआ है, कुछ धार्मिक ग्रंथ है या, बट आई थिंक इट्स लॉर्ड्स पर्सपेक्टिव ऑन आवर लाइफ, यू नो, it's Lord's perspective and it is very intense. It's not a case of bol diya. It speaks about 700 slokas and wide range of topics which we never think are there, but they cast a huge influence on our lives. The more we understand them, I think the more better. So it's Lord's perspective and it is very different than human perspective. Human perspective is very limited, very short-sighted. But Lord's perspective, I think, is the largest perspective you can ever think or of having in your life. And it's dramatically different, it's radically different, it's enlightening, it's illusion remover and lot of things. But the critical point is it's Lord's perspective.
ओके सो सर, आज भगवद गीता बहुत ज्यादा फेमस हो गया है, मतलब बहुत ज्यादा बूम आ चुका है इस चीज का। एंड इन टुडेस वर्ल्ड, व्हाई इज भगवद गीता सो इम्पोर्टेंट राइट नाउ?
See, as long as you are breathing, as long as you are alive,
right?
So being alive means, I think, you use all your senses. You use your body, you use your mind, you use your intellect, you use your ego, you use your wisdom. So how do you know what are these? You think they are like that, but what is the real character of all these things? So as long as a person is going to use these elements, he will need Bhagavad Gita as a guidance. It's a manual. You stop using mind, you will not require the manual for mind. But you are using your mind, you can't stop using your mind. Then what is your mind? You don't know. We don't know. Then who is going to guide us? So we have the best guide possible on mind, best guide possible on intellect, best guide possible on senses. That's why it becomes, as long as you are breathing, you will require, any single human being will require Bhagavad Gita as his guiding point. In whatever situation he is. Whatever situation he is.
Right. तो सर, जो भगवद गीता में जितना हम लोग जानते हैं, या यंग जनरेशन जो है, जो जेन जीज है या जेन अल्फा है, उनको लगता है भगवद गीता इज मोर अबाउट द स्टोरी ऑफ महाभारत. But it is beyond that, it is more. So how can you explain them what is exactly Bhagavad Gita? That it is not the story of Mahabharata, it has a deeper meaning also to it.
Yeah, it is your existence. It defines, it guides your basic existence. Age is no criteria. But I think still a minimum level of maturity is required if one is to understand it correctly. So college going person, when he has to decide whether he should smoke or not smoke, Bhagavad Gita becomes relevant. In what field he should go, he should take geography or science, then Bhagavad Gita becomes relevant. The moment you have to decide something, Bhagavad Gita becomes relevant. At whatever age you are going to take a decision. So the major decisions life take of career, marriage, business, location where he is going to stay, Bhagavad Gita immediately becomes relevant. Immediately becomes relevant because it guides you. It guides you what? It tells you what is right and it tells you what is wrong. It doesn't decide for you. God says He has given you the freedom for you to decide for your own self. But it will guide you of, maybe let's talk of anger. So it will guide you what happens after you get angry. And it guides you what happens when you don't get angry. So anger and are age related? No. So Bhagavad Gita is relevant then. So anger management, desire management, wisdom management, and there is an endless list.
ओके सर, गीता में बहुत ज्यादा धर्म ड्यूटी एंड कर्म एक्शन की बात हुई है. सो इसके बारे में आप क्या बोलना चाहोगे?
The whole Bhagavad Gita is the first point it makes is you act throughout life. There cannot be a moment in your life where you are not acting.
Okay.
And thinking of the mind is also treated as action as per Bhagavad Gita. Because you are active. Only in sleep you are not active. So I mean, so as long as you are action, you need Bhagavad Gita. Then it talks of duty. See, there is it enlightens you. You don't know certain things and it throws light on you. Like if I ask you, who are you? What will you answer?
I am Manav.
You are Manav, but what are you basically? Are you Manav the body, or is there anything more with you which is with the body?
There is more with me.
But what is that more? How it is made? Why does it come to you? What is its role when it is in view? How will you define that? Then you go blank.
Right.
That is all. Everything comes Bhagavad Gita. Then Bhagavad Gita tells you who is that? What is that characteristic? Why is it that it is with you? What will happen when Manav will not be there? What will that particle happen? And what is your goal in life? So these are all parameters which are addressed in great detail. And something which you can experience yourself. It's not a theory which you have to learn. Bhagavad Gita is not education. Bhagavad Gita is experience.
Okay. सो सर, आपने भगवद गीता जब हम पहले डिस्कस कर रहे थे बिफोर पॉडकास्ट के बारे में, आपने 5 चीजों के बारे में हमको बताया था कि कुछ भी पढ़ने के लिए साइंस. सो कैन यू टेल दैट साइंस टू एवरीवन?
See, when we have a research institute which is known as Ramsuk Bhagavad Gita Applied Research Foundation. We operate at Prabhat Road and we have 8 researchers doing work. So when I started this venture, it was just that you need to study Bhagavad Gita. So from that, my friend gifted me a book known as Sadhak Sanjeevani, written by Swami Ramsuk Das ji, who passed away in 2005 at the age of 105. So he has, throughout his life, documented Bhagavad Gita. It is about a 1400-page book. And so we started doing research on that. So once we started doing research, like you go to a gold mine and then you find gold someday you find diamonds, someday you find a diamond which you never imagined existing in that mine. And that's how our journey of research started. So, and interestingly, I am a businessman. So I said, boss, give me applications. I'm not part of academics. I'm part of really apply business, really apply Bhagavad Gita in life. So that book first inspired me. Then somebody also gifted me Warren Buffett's book, Tell Me Where I'm Going to Die So I'll Not Go There. It's a fantastic philosophical guide plus practical applications to life, basically overall life, and then business and finance. And I found that Warren Buffett is following Bhagavad Gita. So I said, how is he following Bhagavad Gita? He has not read Bhagavad Gita. So it was my curiosity. Then last year, in an exhibition of Book Trust, I got one book, Be Human Then Divine. This is now Stoic philosophy, which was Mediterranean philosophy about 2,500 years before. And they had a saintly tradition for 1,300 years. And this book, which started with Pythagoras and went on for 1,300 years, is kind of a replica of Bhagavad Gita. I was amazed with it. And Warren Buffett and his partner Charles Munger follow that philosophy. So because they are following that philosophy, and which is kind of a reflection of Bhagavad Gita, they are following Bhagavad Gita. So I got the connect. And then I could find more applications from Bhagavad Gita. So now what we are doing is we have, so that now we put everything together. Our research team puts everything together. Now when Buffett talks a lot of the learning process, we need to know the learning process. There is a science of how you should learn.
Right.
So we took that science, and while we were examining Bhagavad Gita, we found 4 points. Jidnyasa, which is curiosity, then Chintan, which is contemplation, then Abhyas, which is practice, and then faith, which comes only from Bhagavad Gita, but very less in Warren Buffett. So we have realized that there are 4 pillars of learning process. So the learning science, you cannot have curiosity but no contemplation. You will not learn anything. You need all 4 to be combined together, which exactly Warren Buffett and Charles Munger have repeatedly mentioned. And it's not a one-time affair. The beauty of that is it's a lifelong pursuit. So every day you are learning something, you are enjoying that process of learning. You also need to enjoy it. And then you are a much better person. You have to continue learning with the backing of the science of learning, not what you feel right. That would be very short-sighted and incorrect. You follow the process and the results are far better than you can ever imagine.
So, sir, just you talked about Warren Buffett, that he took the guidance from Gita. But while I was doing some research for our podcast, so going back, Bhagavad Gita and the relationship with atomic bomb that had happened. So I read about it that on 16 July 1945 in New Mexico, जब वो Trinity atomic bomb हुआ था, Oppenheimer का, at that time when the blast had happened, there was a very big light that came, and Oppenheimer said a slok from Bhagavad Gita. So I'll read that in English for you. That is, I am time, the great destroyer of the world, and I come here to destroy all people. And this line, it was said by Oppenheimer in 1965 after the blast was done, and he knew that the atomic bomb was so dangerous that he could have killed the whole world. And he used this reference in his interview, and the interview is also still there. So why people like are taking so much reference from Bhagavad Gita? Is it that powerful?
No, see, Bhagavad Gita is, you can derive whatever you want from it. You can interpret it the way it wants. It's not dogmatic. It's an open book. So Mahatma Gandhi could interpret it differently. Savarkar could interpret it differently. Lokmanya Tilak could interpret it differently. Swami Chinmayananda will interpret it differently. Aurobindo will interpret differently. You will interpret differently. I will interpret differently. Vinoba Bhave will interpret it differently. Now Oppenheimer interpreted it according to his thing. Whether that is backed by more detail, more data, is a question mark. Bhagavad Gita, basically, he is talking of a cycle of, like, you are born and you will go. Somebody else will be born and he went. So this is a cycle. But how to relate it with time and how to relate it with Lord, my experience tells me that we as human beings are not able to contemplate or think of the full blast of Bhagavad Gita. It is not possible. We don't have the equipments. Our mind is limited. Our intellect is limited. Our ego is limited. So we don't have that intellectual capacity within ourselves to know all by us the Gita. If it is inspired thought, it would be still the fraction of the whole significance. So the best people who have known Bhagavad Gita is when God kind of blessed them and then they understood it better. So that element in Oppenheimer is a hugely gray area.
Okay.
And you can't use atomic bomb and time and kind of reconstruct everything according to your convenience. I think it would be unfair, because the same Bhagavad Gita could inspire you to be absolutely use anything and everything you have for peace.
Right.
Anything and everything you have for peace. It doesn't talk even at a fraction of a time of destruction. It doesn't. It talks of duties. If your duty is to a warrior, be a warrior. So if Duryodhan would have come to home of Arjuna as a guest, Bhagavad Gita would tell him, give him the best possible food you can ever give. There is no question of war that time, because he's come to your home and he's hungry. Give him the best possible food. That is Bhagavad Gita. It's completely duty-centric document, completely peaceful,
Right.
completely 100%. It talks of 99, also no, 100%. That's the way it is. But it is still subject to interpretation by different people, because it's 700 sloka and there is so much data inside that you can interpret it differently.
Right.
And everything could be right.
Yeah.
Everything could be right because it's relative.
Okay, so as you said, you're a businessman, and while you started your venture with researchers on Bhagavad Gita, you wanted some application solutions. So in today's world, many entrepreneurs are coming, and after reaching certain point, they are like कि मेरे से नहीं हो पाएगा. They get stuck into that. So at that time, can Bhagavad Gita help them? And can you give some example for it?
Stuck in what?
So, for example, I am opening a new business, new venture, and after a certain point, it comes like ये problem आ रहा है, ये problem आ रहा है, ये issues आ रहा है, जो business में generally होते हैं. So they are stuck. So can Bhagavad Gita help them to calm their mind down, think out of the box, and maybe get a better connection, better values, better relationship within the environment to make a business a better and a healthier way and take it forward?
Yes, it will. It will give the best output you can possibly give. Why does your output go down? This question we ask the other side.
Okay.
Why does your output, we take you as a product and your output goes down? So it's greed, it's fear, it's ego. It's a whole lot of nonsense, desires. And what happens now? The Bhagavad Gita explains that structure. So you are composed of 8 elements. The body is 5, the 5 natural elements, and mind, intellect, and ego. Now all these 8 elements create psychological problems: loss of confidence, depression, confusion, long list of desires, thinking that you are not capable, but you can be capable. All these problems exist in these 8 elements. So now what becomes very interesting is Bhagavad Gita tells you when these 8 elements get clouded, that means they will not take a good decision for you. Your mind will only take your wrong decision. Bhagavad Gita says you take care of your mind. For example, I will tell you, Bhagavad Gita tells mind is your friend, and at the same time, mind is your enemy also. You control it. It wants again and again. So how does Bhagavad Gita? It will give you the best output, means it will avoid the worst output. Now, all those results of worst output I just mentioned, but it has given you a tool known as Vivek, which we call as wisdom, which is known commonly, which is highly, highly recommended by Warren Buffett and Charles Munger. So that they tell you to keep intact. So what is the best performance of Manav? When his wisdom is active. That's the best you can do in this life. You can't do anything more. Your wisdom is active. If your wisdom is deciding things, you have done your best performance. And it also tells you don't bother of results. Do your best. That means what? That means put all your focus, like Warren Buffett says, Focus on the playing field, not on the scoreboard.
Mm.
And Bhagavad Gita says, focus on your work. Results don't worry, it's not in your hand. These are very good guidance because it guides you to remain focused on your work. Don't waste your energy thinking of results which are going to come later. Focus on your work now. If your work is good, results are good.
Mm.
So that is how I think in any and every situation, Bhagavad Gita will help you first in coming out of that situation. And if you continuously practice, you will never go into that situation again. So you can be as good as you can be. Na? That's your mandate. You as a person, Mano, can be best as what Mano can be. Na? You cannot become like me. I cannot become like you. That is clear. So Bhagavad Gita tells you how best you can become Mano. But you need to read it correctly. You need to have faith in it. You need to understand it. So I told you the 4 learning process. So you need to apply it here also.
So, sir, if Lord Krishna, भगवान कृष्णा एंटरप्रेन्योर रहते हैं मतलब आज के टाइम पे, तो क्या टाइप के लीडर रहते हैं वो आपके हिसाब से?
He could probably be the most benevolent leader ever.
Okay.
Most benevolent.
Why?
And money is insignificant to him because he doesn't need anything. You and I, we want something. He says, I don't need anything. I am just doing this for benevolence. Out of, so that the world is a better world tomorrow. So his needs are not there. So rather than an entrepreneur, he's a Kshatriya. So he's kind of governing king. So king, he will become, I don't think he will ever enter business, but all the kings will follow him. He'll create a kind of leadership where the people whom he leads would be most happy, would be most safe, and all those things. But I don't think he will put himself into a position of making money or wanting business because he doesn't need that. He doesn't need anything. His requirements are only 0. But benevolence is unlimited. He wants to bless you, it will be unlimited. But in return, he expects nothing other than love. His only requirement is not Kriya. There is a distinction. So they say what is Lord hungry for? He's hungry for your emotional love. Not your offerings, but your love, or your feelings. And that is what is connect. So he will probably enhance that. And if you see a little bit differently in India is probably the only religion or country where Hinduism is there. And what is the distinctive point of Hinduism? It is Saguna Bhakti, attribute, bhakti with some attribute, love with some attribute. No other religion has it. India has outperformed it because we have Bhagavad Gita and because we have Lord Krishna. Something which has blessed mankind is this Saguna Bhakti. There is so much joy within which comes out that there can be no parallel possible. And that is probably to me, it's amazing how this has evolved into bringing so much of human happiness into existence. So much.
So, sir, if you would like to explain the core essence of Gita for our teenagers in one line, so what would you like to say?
They should remove their ignorance. They should definitely bring down their desires. Why they should bring down their desires? Because that will make them wise. Desires cloud your wisdom. The cloud. And a person without wisdom cannot have a good life. Age is, irrespective of it. You need wisdom to be exactly in place, whatever you may decide or do not decide. Once you have that tool of wisdom within you, your life is safe, secured, happy, welcoming, energetic, enthusiasm, everything, whatever you are made for.
Right.
Without wisdom, today or tomorrow, someday you will fall. So for youth, for everybody, but especially for youth, reduce your desires, be connected with Gita, read it every day, stay connected and don't ignore it. Ignorance is taking away valuable time of your youth. Valuable time of your youth.
Okay. So we have been talking about wisdom. So what exactly is wisdom and how is it different from gaining knowledge?
So there is a difference between intelligence and wisdom.
Okay.
Many people think they are the same, but they are not. A dramatic difference is there between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence everybody has. Very, very common. Wisdom is very, very few. Wisdom is a lifelong pursuit. Intelligence, you are born with it. You know how to survive. But so Bhagavad Gita tells you the difference between truth and false, between what is eternal and what is temporary, between what is right and wrong. That is decided by wisdom. So someday I say, like in business you are said. So your ego will tell you how much you have to succeed. No, your ego will tell I am going to be a successful person. But what will wisdom do? So wisdom will tell you avoid failures. So with wisdom as a tool, you will avoid your failures. With ego as a tool, you want to succeed. You want to succeed. Whether you will succeed or not is question mark. But see the difference between wisdom and ego. Once you avoid failures, you are successful. You are more on a more sounder footing. And that is what is the job of the wisdom. You can't fail with wisdom. And with ego, it's all a blind game. Anything can happen. So that's why even Charlie Munger says acquisition of wisdom is your moral duty. And they said there is so much wisdom to acquire that even at the age of 90, Charles Munger and Warren Buffett every day read 3-4 hours. Why are they reading? Wisdom. The key is wisdom to them. And for wisdom, they avoid all this fear, greed, anger, ego. They want to avoid all these things. So it's a document of wisdom. If you ask me, Gita is a document of wisdom. And it's the only probable document of wisdom in that fashion, in that style, given by Lord. Very unique, very extensive.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful episode.